the final episode of Formula Pod for this particular season. Normally, we're here to break down a race weekend or react to what's happening off track. But this episode is a bit different. This isn't about a race, a single race, or a headline moment. It's about an era. With Formula One heading to its biggest regulation reset in 2026, the V6 Turbo Hybrid era is drawing to a close. So rather than just jumping straight onto what comes next, we thought it would be a right time to take a moment to pause and look back at that moment, the drivers, the races that stayed with us. This is Arjun Reddy's joining in, and today's episode is a bit different from our usual ones. We've got a few new voices joining us, each bringing their own memories and perspectives from this era. So I'm not going to be talking more, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So let's start with your name, the team you support, or the driver you support, and what first got you into Formula One. So let's go, Priya.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to start. I'm Priya Patel-Chomel, originally from the UK. I got into Formula One. Well, I have very early memories. We're talking like Damon Hill era, watching it, on the TV in the UK, always there in the background on the Sunday. But I guess I really got into it back when I lived in Singapore between 2009 and 2014, and managed to go to F1 Singapore every single year, and just really kind of got into it and have been following it closely since then. I'm very patriotic, so Lewis Hamilton is the driver that I've been behind certainly for the last 10 plus years, and his dominance at Mercedes was unrivaled. And I guess in recent times I've also been supporting McLaren, given they've done phenomenally over the last few years.
Amazing. And Urvashi, let's get a bit about you, though.
Sure. I'm Urvashi. I live in Dubai, and I have been following Formula One since 2024 mid. I would say around the Hungary Grand Prix. So I'm a very recent fan. I support McLaren, but out of the spite in this championship, I was supporting Max. We all know why. And but my main driver was Lando Norris, who won the championship this year. So what got me into Formula One was primarily DTS. Although I've not watched the first episode, I watched a bit and then I stopped. What really stuck on to me was memes. I became a huge meme fan, and that's what got me into the sport.
Wow, we've definitely got one side who has been watching Formula One for quite a long time, and we've got another side who's a very recent fan. And then in between of this is me, who started watching Formula One, I think 2018. I started watching Formula One. So like peak Lewis Hamilton domination days. So it's thank you so much for making the time to come in and kind of share your kind of perspectives during this particular episode. And let's start with the big picture here. When we look back at this particular season, what actually defined it for you? Who would want to start?
Go ahead.
I guess honestly, the way Max bounced back, even after having the worst car in the beginning half, the way also due to a lot of mistakes made by McLaren, but to Max's achievements, the way he bounced back and came back into the leadership fight and just lost by 2 points, fabulous, honestly. And of course, Lewis not being able to perform as well in Ferrari, but it is his first year, so it's fine.
Okay. Priya, what about you?
Yeah, sure. I think it was a season defined by the fact that it wasn't a repeat of a pure dominance by one single team. Obviously, Mercedes era, and then the last few years, Red Bull. Max was that clear champion since 2020. Let's forget that 2021, but 2022 onwards. However, this year McLaren started. Oscar was obviously strong in the first third, and I see it as when I look back at it, it's a season of 3 parts. We had the Oscar dominance, the beginning. McLaren obviously straight off their mark, really started the season strong. Then we had Lando come in, starts taking away team points from his teammate, and Lando was then definitely the second, third. And then Max's run at the end, Red Bull continued to show that they execute flawlessly, given that they had the kind of the power came back, the strategy was always great, and I thought it made for a really exciting season. So for me, it was the first season in a long time where that championship was truly up for grabs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me personally, what defined this season was the bounce back of Williams.
Yes. So for them to finish at number 5 and for just to finish top 10 is incredible.
Like, again, we have Ferrari, McLaren blood now in Williams, and Williams getting 2 podiums, which was the biggest surprise for me for this particular season. And at the same time, you're seeing a strong Ferrari falling off, and then that Mercedes after Hamilton era, when Mercedes were with George and Kimi, that actually kind of saw that sort of bounce back, even though it wasn't their strongest in this last regulation change, because when they were still with the zero pod side pod, still they scored even more points, which I personally couldn't believe it at first. I was like, wow, that is actually a real thing. But like, yeah, for me, it was just these two kind of things, because clearly we knew the previous season McLaren won the constructors in Abu Dhabi, and clearly Max is not going to go without a fight, even though if he's got a car which was not that great, and because that Red Bull car is anyways built around Max, right? So it is something like he will still extract the most out of it. But did you ever genuinely feel like, again, I'm going to use what Priya said, there were 3 different domination eras in this particular season. But did you ever feel like the title fight was alive?
Yeah. I mean, the last few races, especially when McLaren made their couple of mistakes and it became, more and more of a reality for Max. I do think that was a real reality going into Abu Dhabi. I think it was quite tense, certainly for me. So, I'm happy about the end result, but I do think that Max could have cinched it.
Okay, and any thoughts on that though?
Yeah, I do feel as well that at the end there was a good opportunity for Max to win. And again, like I said, the way Max bounced back, it just made it more real, because it kind of got a bit boring with the papaya rules, with the team orders. Okay, you need to give this, you need to do that for Oscar, etc. But with Max joining into the fight, you just knew it. They have to fight for the title, or else Max gonna get his 5th one, which did not happen. But I would have loved it if Max did get his 5th one.
I gotta give like a hard reality over here. We all actually are not Max Verstappen supporters, because my team personally, like, I'm a Lewis supporter. One of my and similarly with one of my teammates Mihir, he's also a Lewis supporter. In fact, the day when Lewis announced he was going to Ferrari, he actually got his entire bedroom theme to Mercedes and Lewis. He's like, I need to change my room's layout now, because from the silver arrows, it got to be scarlet red.
Yeah.
So and plus, like, we've got like Ferrari and McLaren fans, so Red Bull is never the most favorite here.
I'm in between McLaren and Red Bull. Don't worry.
Yeah, but then from a driver perspective, which driver, according to you, from a form perspective, surprised you the most, either positively or negatively?
I mean, I think Charles Leclerc has a few standout performances, especially in qualifying, especially if you compare the fact that he's got the same car as Lewis. Unfortunately, Ferrari didn't do that well, but he did, I think, overall. I mean, Lando was a big surprise for me as well, because he doesn't drive with the same aggression as Oscar or Max. I think he just kept his calm throughout. And that for me, was amazing to see. I thought it was incredibly mature of him. He's matured a lot in the last few years. And then, as you said, the Williams duo, I thought, given the car again that they have, but I think James Vowles and the whole team have just done an incredible job with that team. So both Alex and Carla, were good. And let's not forget Nico Hulkenberg on his one podium after all these years. I was super, super happy for him.
Yeah, that was that one race that actually gave me such a reality check, to be very honest. I was like, okay, Lewis will still get his podium. And then I'm like, oh no, that happened.
Yeah.
It felt a bit disappointing, but I'm like, okay, fine. He got his first. So yeah.
For me, I would say it was Kimi.
Okay.
I wasn't really expecting any. I mean, Isaac got his first podium as well, but Kimi performed really well in his first year altogether, in Mercedes, and also Yuki. I was a bit disappointed with how not a bit, with the way Yuki performed in Red Bull. There were a lot of expectations. People were like, no, it's not the car, it's the driver. But at the end, even Yuki could not perform. And what he was doing in Abu Dhabi just sort of, brought down the thing that, okay, the driver, it's the car. So yeah, Yuki was one person I was not expecting to perform this bad in this season.
Yeah, and that brings me on to quickly Isaac Hadjar. I think he had a fantastic rookie season.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think this year with rookies, there are some standout rookies. I would kind of put that in because it was the most amount of rookies we had in a season.
Rookies.
Yeah, 5 rookies we had in a while, to be very honest. And it was kind of, what do you call, with Isaac and Kimi getting onto podiums, which to be very honest, I was genuinely happy for, because Isaac, again, for all the Lewis fans, you have a bit of leaning towards Isaac, because he idolizes Lewis as his what do you call, I don't even know, like his idol is Lewis.
Yeah.
And the way how people ask, okay, what was your reaction in the 2021 season? And he was not saying, oh, it was Max. He's like, oh no, hell, it's Lewis. So I do like him. But like, just kind of, if you had to explain this particular season in one sentence to a new fan, what would you say?
I would say don't expect anything. Expect the unexpected.
Okay.
Both just said the same thing.
Wow. Like, yeah, I cannot even call. It's not even. I would rather call it chaos.
That's true.
I can call it chaos and unpredictability. If it's.
I think
Yeah,
this season.
It was. I don't think it was as chaotic as like other seasons, but it was. Yeah, it was different. Like it was exciting to watch.
I think this season, I think, was also great in terms of the team radios. If I have to tell a new fan, listen out to the team radios, like especially when Fernando finally comes back and says, I'm just going to stop talking for the rest of the team race, or with Charles and the water memes that came out. So memes are one thing you would really like out of the races.
Definitely, radio, like the radio chatter has become like the highlight this year, more than, I think a lot of things got into highlight, to be very honest. Like, it's not just team radio, it's what do you call, team principal reactions, what do you call, driver girlfriends, like the entire, what do you call, things which normally never got focused on, got so much focus this year, because again, on one side we were having really tight race, but at the same time, off track was a lot more, it was getting a lot more interesting, to be very honest. But coming down to, let's kind of shift the narrative a bit about to the hybrid era, in terms of, say, how it went from say, you used to have like cars which were basically refueling during pit stops. I'm pretty sure, Priya, you must have seen plenty of this.
Yeah.
And then you see right now, like, cars just kind of using in buttons to kind of get a bit more of a boost to the electrical power, and bit like did you what did you feel like? Say, was that move like something which, as a fan of you who have watched races all over the years, was something the right step which F1 did? Because you have watched races where the cars were really loud, those V10s, the V8s.
Yeah.
And then you've seen these ones which are, okay, they are loud enough, but they're not as loud as those back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why they went hybrid. It was in keeping with just, where the industry were going, and I think motorsports in general needed to move there. But it doesn't have the same kind of, raw power and deep kind of thrill and noise. Obviously, the V10 and the V8s used to have back in the day. And I think, many things like the halo coming in, the driver ability being affected, more of the rules and regulations. It has definitely changed the sport. It's just not as unpredictable and raw and dangerous as it used to be. But, there are also benefits to it being how it is with the hybrid era.
Yeah, and also say I would even say from a perspective of say when the time when DRS got launched 2011, that was like a very interesting thing that kind of came up where like you could just a flap just gives you additional 18 kilometers worth of speed, and then you can just kind of do because that DRS again first in this era was started off with Jensen Button first getting that DRS button on, and the last one being Kimi Antonelli on the very last lap of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So that also kind of brought in quite a lot with this particular season because that DRS has helped decide a lot of things, to be very honest. Because I think last year with George and Charles at Abu Dhabi, it was just like that sort of that DRS game that kind of played the decision on who is P2 and P3 in constructors. So like DRS is definitely that one part along with the engines and all those. But do you think like something which you've seen over the years, again, this question again comes back to you, Priya, because I feel like you watch too much of F1 that I've got way too much questions. But like, do you feel like do you as a fan kind of have witnessed something which you find interesting, which has come up over the years in the sport?
From pre-hybrid era or
no, as in this particular era.
I just think well, I mean the dominance that certain teams had in this era, obviously Mercedes, but I think there've just been some fantastic championship fights as well. 2016 lost like Hamilton, same thing, same vehicle. What did it come down to? I think just mental tactics in the end at the end of the day. So that's got nothing to do with obviously the engine, but I feel like there's just been so many great moments, so many years of dominance, so many strategy calls that make sense and make one team excel over another. When they choose to do the pit stop, when they choose what tires they use. Obviously, the weather and safety cars and things have an element to that. I think more than just the actual power of the vehicle, it's also about just how that team makes the call on the day. Together. So I think for me, it's just been really interesting to see that. Back in the day, it was Williams and then McLaren for a while, obviously with Jensen Button and Lewis when he was at McLaren, and then the whole Mercedes dominance, and then moving through to Red Bull. Under Christian Horner, I know he's a divisive character, but he did incredibly well with them. So it's been interesting to see how each team's really utilized this kind of hybrid.
Yeah. Urvashi, did you ever kind of, again, I know you are a recent fan, but have you ever kind of took that moment to kind of look through to the past and be like, oh, how was Formula One back in the day and how is it right now?
Kind of. I think, again, since I am chronically online, so you come across a lot of clips from back in the day when they used to do the fueling of the car. And I think one of the incidents that caused it was Max's dad. The car went up on fire when they were refueling it.
Okay.
So that was there. And then, especially the halo. The halo before and after the halo is a big change, is what I've seen because of the amount of that was caused and how recent crashes, which could have ended very badly, was kind of subdued it because of the halo. So a lot of changes have come in from the past and now, and I feel a lot of drivers were more raw, or more like now they're a bit more okay. We need to be a bit more perfect, but back then they were like, this is a fight. We don't care what we say. We need to win no matter what, So there's that change in shit.
I get you. When you're saying this, I'm just thinking of Kimi Räikkönen. The absolute raw person with the limited number of words. and then the radio also being like, where are my gloves, where are my steering wheel, and like, trust me, still watching those these days, it's basically, for me, I can still sit and watch them unlimited number of times.
Yeah.
Like, Kimi Räikkönen was that character. Kimi Räikkönen, again, technically is the last Ferrari championship driver, and the team and the driver who's responsible for making Lotus go bankrupt because of the atrocious points he got and the atrocious contract he ended up getting out. But like, I get what you mean. But like, moving on to the iconic eras of this particular era, which again, this particular time frame, say from 2010 onwards, what, according to you, would you consider as the best championship fight?
Since 2010?
Yeah.
Two, I think Rosberg, Hamilton, 2016.
Okay.
And then more recently, Verstappen, Hamilton, 2021. I think for me was super, super exciting. Like the fact that I think it's the first time in 70 years it went to the final, and there was 1 point in it. That was utterly stunning. And the fact that their rivalry really played out on the track. You know, we look at Silverstone, we look at what happened on the track. Was it Monza when Max went over Lewis's head? You know, it was quite intense. So for me, obviously being Hamilton.
Yeah. What about you, Urvashi?
Obviously, more recently, one being the controversial one being the Hamilton and Verstappen, with a lot of people going up in flames whenever you talk about the Abu Dhabi one. My friend is an LH fan as well, and whenever that topic does come up, she's like, "No, I don't agree with those results at all." And I think also one which I've seen a lot is the Rosberg and Hamilton, how he won in that car, equal machinery, and still managed to beat Hamilton. I think, I'm not sure about how many points. I think that was, and how their friendship really soared because of the rivalry until date. I think they're still not very on good terms. So that was quite interesting. And I think, so the 2010, because of the recent three-way title, a lot of people bought up the 2010 championship. There were 5 drivers contesting for the championship, and I think one of them won by just 1 or 2 points. So yeah, those are the 3 for me.
Yeah, for me, I would say the 2010 championship for sure, when Sebastian Vettel won his first title, being the youngest like that particular incident was just like, I was just like, wow. The way, again, and it was I think from a radio perspective, again, for Lewis, there is a very specific way how Bono and Lewis had that sort of radio chatter. But this one with like, again, these guys using German in between and kind of getting on that actually felt really good though. Genuinely, I felt really happy for Sebastian, even though I'm not a Red Bull fan as a team, but they have achieved a lot, to be very honest. And definitely, I would say, if you're looking by that, definitely the championship of 2021, Lewis and Max, because despite the rest of the field being 40 seconds clear, these both were just like under a second away. And also say this particular season, to be very honest, was an interesting one for me because of how the dynamics changed in terms of, especially the downfall was very evident after Zandvoort, when Piastri ended up crashing in Baku. From then on, I'm actually seeing what exactly that sort of a turn of events kind of happened, which was a bit interesting. So, like, yeah, for me, this season, actually, championship-wise, pretty good one. But so what about, say, you'll have that one particular race in your mind which has been etched, which you think was the best race. Which would that be?
For me,
yeah,
it's Interlagos, Brazil.
Okay.
Because Lewis obviously had an engine upgrade, started in last position and won. And I just think that was just a show of sheer determination. And, you know, just couldn't write him off, even if it was a few races before the end, still fighting for that win, fighting for that title. And I think the other one that mirrors that is also Max, as much as I hate to say it, is same place, 2016, I think, and he kind of won in the rain, and it was really awful. And I think he did a really, really stellar job. But yeah, definitely Brazil 2021.
Interlagos has been that one track which kind of gives in that sort of very, very intense racing moments, especially when Lewis won his first title. The world thought Felipe Massa won the championship, but then actually that last minute move, and then Lewis just clinched the title. So definitely Interlagos is that one track for sure, which kind of gives in that sort of moments. What about you, Urvashi? Go ahead.
Again, the same track, which is the Interlagos in Brazil.
Okay.
Last year's race, I think, was when Max started around 17 or something and came first position. And the chaos which also followed in that rain, a lot of people going out, and the fact that during qualifying itself, a lot of cars crashed and they had a very short amount of time to fix those cars up for the race. There was a debate whether we should postpone the race, prepone the race, whatever it was. So I would say last year's Interlagos race, yeah. Brazil.
To be very honest, I will kind of pick in some of them. As in, one I would say is when Daniel Ricciardo first won for McLaren in Monza, the day when Lewis and Max ended up going, like Max going over Lewis.
Yeah.
That particular race, again, for me, like I like Daniel Ricciardo. So definitely that was that one race which I would say was something which was really close to heart. And also last year when Lewis won this British Grand Prix, again, tough conditions, tough calls, but then again, Silverstone and Hamilton in that Mercedes machinery, knowing the Silverstone track really well, and the judgment calls and McLaren's strategy screw up, automatically kind of gave Lewis that win after, I think, like a good number of days. I don't exactly know. I know it is definitely in those 1,000 number of days. I don't know exactly what's the exact number over there, but that was definitely a drive which for me I'll definitely remember. And of course, Charles Leclerc winning in Monaco.
Yeah.
Despite despite all the times he kind of go in, crash the car, the first time, he just does the job, controls the pack, and seals the deal. Brilliant. Like again, for me, Charles Leclerc's races in Monaco and Monza was just like Monza specifically because you're in the home of Ferrari, and whenever Ferrari driver wins, it's just that big deal of okay, you've got that wave of Italians just spreading all that sort of energy out there. Just so brilliant. Like I really wish if I get a chance to go to Monza, I would really want to go and kind of witness that. But then again, I don't know whether Ferrari is going to nail it or not. God knows, with 2026 season. But but I genuinely, I really wish if Lewis wins in Monza in Ferrari, that would be like, what do you call? It'll be brilliant.
Yeah.
If you kind of look at it though. And also let's kind of talk about the shock results which you have seen in this season, or in this entire era.
Shock result.
As in, say for example, you never ever thought this particular driver or this particular team will perform like this.
Maybe like Pierre Gasly in Monza 2020.
Okay.
Not a great team, no real strategy. I think just the circumstances helped him win.
Okay.
Relatively new driver, I think, in 2020 as well. But yeah, that's probably one.
For me, I would say Nico Hülkenberg this year. The team the previous season was having the longer pit stops and like a full reshuffle of the team organization and the drivers, with Gabriel Bortoleto and Nico Hülkenberg coming in. as in Gabriel Bortoleto has brought in some stellar performances, finished P5, that like his best finish is P5. But he like that particular team has brought some sort of shockers for me. And definitely, we have said this multiple times. I'm still gonna say it. Williams.
Yeah.
Williams and its podiums this year. So for me, that midfield coming into a bit more of a bit more closer. And I would also say Ollie Behrman in 2024 Saudi Grand Prix. He kind of stood in for Carlos Sainz when Carlos Sainz had appendicitis, and he kind of held a fighting Lando and Lewis together on the back. So that was like a shocker for me as well, because a guy who was just called in between free practice 3 did one practice session and then just got a really good result.
Yeah.
So that's another shocker, which for me, I think I'll kind of put it in.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think George did that a few years ago as well. Didn't he, when he's before he stepped
2020
in?
Bahrain Grand Prix, when Lewis got COVID and he was told to step in.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Any shockers you have?
I would say Nico was one. I was really not expecting him to come, and I especially give Lewis a fight for the third place. That was something no one was expecting as well, and I was really happy for the man because after being in the sport for a long time and finally getting his first podium, it must have felt amazing for him. Other than that, again, I'm a recent fan, so nothing really shocking for me since 2024, 2025 more has been, I would say, for McLaren and Red Bull. So let's see. Maybe there might be something more shocking coming up in the future.
Again, we ended an era, and I know when 2014 was the first time when we got new set of regulations kind of coming in. And back then it was the Red Bull dominance, and then you had that 1 year of Braun GP, and then after Braun GP, that's currently known as Mercedes Benz AMG Formula One team, and then from there on, it has been going on. And for me, when this season was kind of wrapping up, I had this thought that okay, Red Bull will win, and then from the next season onwards, it's going to history will repeat itself, because still the last season again, Red Bull had a clear shot, but then McLaren sealed the deal quite well. But have you kind of had such sort of a thought where you're like, okay, if we look through the past and then we're seeing this, like a sort of a pattern being followed, or because this year particularly has been a year where a lot of patterns were broken. If you look at it, say, Lewis not finishing in a season without podiums, which is sad. Then you've got, say, it was told if McLaren wins this season, the next season Ferrari will win. Clearly that didn't happen. McLaren is still going on the streak. So have you kind of had such sort of moments which you thought, okay, history is repeating itself?
History repeating itself, as in McLaren is set to win the next few constructors.
Again, it can be that we don't know.
We don't know. No, I think we're going to level the playing field a little bit moving into the new era. So, if everyone's got a cost cap, everyone, it definitely gives a bit more, just equal amenities, equal expenditure. So I think it's interesting. It's difficult to say. I'd love for McLaren to continue their dominance.
Okay. Papaya is definitely trying to. Priya really wants Papaya to rule a bit more. Okay.
As I said, I'm patriotic. Well, or obviously, I'd love for Ferrari to come up front with Lewis, but I just feel like they're still quite far.
Okay. Which anything you want to add in?
I have nothing to add on this. Again, I have to still, become a much more. Let the time pass by before I figure out what kind of patterns would come in. But yeah.
Enough, of course. With this season being an end and with this particular era kind of wrapping up, do you think this season did justice to this particular era coming to a wrap. Saying, well, as in, do you think it was a fitting way to end this particular era with this particular season?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think it shows that there's more than just pure dominance by one team, over the course of the whole season. And that a group of really strong drivers can actually take it in multiple different directions. And going back to the Williams example that you shared, Carlos Sainz is a phenomenal driver. He's had that support behind him this year. Now Williams, obviously, they need a few, more upgrades and a bit more expenditure, but there's no reason for why they can't be top 5, 1, 2, 3 next year. So
okay,
has leveled it a bit. And I think it was a fitting last season of this era because it just kind of dispels that belief that it's one team.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, yeah. Again, following from 2024, what I've been seeing up until now, it's usually people would say, oh, it's the car, oh, it's the driver, oh, it's the team on whom the championship is based. But I've seen that even no matter, of course, the car does matter. I'm not saying the car doesn't matter, but the driver matters as well, right?
Okay.
And at the end, there are many of them who we say were not good at all, suddenly popping up and getting podiums or even poles to some extent.
Yeah.
It really shows that in spite of the car, if the driver is strong, you can do it. And I feel this season was a good end to it, with a lot of new faces, with a lot of new podiums and poles and etc.
Definitely, I would kind of say with this season, the good part is that there used to be a time where you had the top of the grid, the midfield, and the bottom of the grid. I know 9 out of the 10 teams have done pure justice to it. The 10th team being Alpine. Again, I don't know what's even going on there, because I know last season, just because of sheer luck, both the drivers made it to podium, and then they just bumped themselves up to a couple of positions up there. But then this year it was like an absolute disappointment, to be very honest. With, say, again, they also doing a bit of a Red Bull move with removing Jack Doohan, not giving him that sort of time.
Yeah.
And kind of getting Franco Colapinto. And to be very honest, after seeing him doing the last couple of races in Williams, I was like, this guy was great at the start. But then as you were coming in closer to wraps, he was crashing the car quite frequently. I'm like, I didn't understand what was the hype behind him. But then coming back to the season, I think like this year, the season has, as in the teams were a lot more tighter when it came to the championship, because the top 4, that first place, again, regardless, McLaren did its bit, got the job done. P2 was split between 3 teams, and that kept on changing between Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull. And you had then the midfield coming in between Aston Martin, Racing Bulls, Haas, and Kick Sauber. Again, there was that mix that was coming up, that got only decided like until the very last race, which to me was like, from a championship perspective, this has been one of the best seasons, where we could see that it not only from the driver's standpoint, but then from the constructor's standpoint also, we're seeing that sort of a rigor coming up across the 10 teams. Oh my god, I'm saying this 10 teams.
And next year.
11 next year, as in 20, I think, I don't know, 2011 or 2012 was the last time we had 11 teams. When as in back in the day when Honda was a team and when Toyota was a team. And speaking about that though, now that we've got smaller cars, again, they're small by only like a couple of centimeters, and lighter cars, and we've got 22 teams. Do you think, and we have new entrants, we've got Cadillac, we've got Audi joining in. Would you fancy seeing like the underdog game, which something like a Braun GP did back in the day, kind of happen again?
If somebody wants to fund an independent team and put them in the mix, I think it would be quite interesting to see.
Because you've got like wherein Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas 1 year of not racing. Valtteri at least was doing simulators for Mercedes.
Yeah.
but still he's still not in touch with the car. And he actually, if you have not known, he actually has a penalty which he's got in Abu Dhabi, which he was supposed to serve in the very first race. But then, thanks to new regulation changes, he will now not need to serve that, because usually, as per regulations, as per the new regulations, the penalty only lasts for a year.
Okay.
So a race penalty doesn't go more than a year. Because if you're looking like that, Jenson Button, if he ever manages to get his hands on an F1 car, on an F1 seat, he has a 10-place grid drop, which he kind of managed to get away at his time in McLaren.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for Jenson Button, it's off. It's off. For Valtteri Bottas also, it's off. But do you think, like, say, with next year's cars, we've got new manufacturers in. We've got Audi. We've got Cadillac is not a manufacturer until 2028, because they're running on Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
And I rather call it like Haas 2.0, because an American fit out with Italian engines. If you look at it, it's technically Haas 2.0. I call that. But do you think, like, this, with the next season, with these new teams coming in and 22 cars on the grid, the competition is going to kind of be a bit more fierce now that everyone is trying to figure out what the regulation is, what the season is?
Yeah, I do think so. I think it's because it's a lot more about kind of like, the software, the energy management, how the engineering is going to work. I think, with the addition of new teams, new engines, there's definitely going to be room for a more competitive season. I hope, because obviously from a viewing perspective, it's great.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it would be more competitive, especially when you're starting from complete zero. There's no longer, okay, we already know what is happening, we already know what needs to be done. Now with the new changes, everyone's starting blank off. So now you don't know who's going to perform how. So you never know. Someone who was performing really bad might end up winning might end up winning this time.
Okay.
So yeah.
And would there be like that one team, say, you would say to a new fan, okay, watch out?
Williams.
Okay.
How they were doing this. I think Carlos coming into the team has really helped them out.
Okay.
Because when he did join the team, he himself was not expecting any podiums or anything, right? He was telling them, and when he came onto it, it was great. So with Carlos coming in, helping out the team with everything, I feel like Williams can be one of those who will end up in 1, 2, 3 this coming season.
Yeah. Yeah. It's difficult. Yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah, Williams for sure, but I think the top three still stand, like, Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, because they all have that momentum, has pedigree. Red Bull just have like operational excellence when it comes to strategy. McLaren obviously two constructors, so yeah.
I would kind of say to watch out is Aston Martin.
Yeah, I was going to say Aston Martin, but given that they've not had any big driver changes for a long time, I don't know how.
But then, I would kind of put it from a perspective of Adrian Newey. As in, you've got a hungry Fernando Alonso, because the last couple of races this season, Fernando Alonso was performing really well, and in fact, the very last point of the season was taken by Lance Stroll, which we kind of call him the greatest of sometimes, not all times, because he's got that sort of random days, random sort of peaks he's got, and then sometimes it's just that sharp lows he's also got. So I really would look forward to seeing how the combination of Adrian Newey and Fernando Alonso will kind of translate onto the track. And plus, they're changing manufacturers. They have got Honda engines now, because Red Bull has got Ford engines. Ford is coming back after a really long time, and even though they have learned the know-how from Honda, it's their own powertrains. They're going all independent with that. Yeah. So definitely from an operational excellence, yes, Red Bull has got the deal right. In fact, if you look at operational excellence, the messiest team is Ferrari. If you look at it. As in, how messy can it be? I cannot tell you that. Because it's unthinkable amount. But I would say Aston Martin is one team to watch out, and I would even say Mercedes as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Because we saw with this season how both the drivers are really strong at sort of what do you call in their own respective areas.
Yeah.
So, and with Mercedes is normally known to be building good engines. I will not discount out Mercedes or its supply teams, which is a long list, including Alpine. But with a team which I have no hopes for. I really don't want to say this because then I'm like, what if things will go around? Like I know for a fact that there is definitely chances that Audi can perform well.
Yeah.
You know, because Audi is really doing well at all the other motorsports, and then they've got a really good team in with Jonathan Wheatley, Mattia Binotto. Because all the Ferrari fans hate Binotto right now because of say they call like the shitbox of a car was given before Fred Vasseur kind of came in. So like yeah, if you're saying of teams I really don't look forward to, and then I'm gonna give Cadillac a season's time. Because come on, we got to kind of give them. We need to give them a season's time and not kind of criticize them all at start, but just give them a season's time, see how it goes. And we know Valtteri and we know Sergio Perez, both of them how they drive. They're really good with their defenses. So if they get the right machinery, they will do the job. So let's see in terms of how this is going to go. And as we're wrapping up, like, wanted to check with the new sort of again. I know you guys have been updated with what's coming up with this current season, with the newer season coming up. Have you ever understood the jargon which these guys used to call like the x-axis, the y-axis bits, and then finally they kind of had to rename everything just to simplify it off? Like, have you kind of wrapped your head around it though?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Because I know, say, with this season, we know, okay, we know what, and like, I actually got to know last week what an MGUH and an MGUK is.
Please enlighten us.
MGU is basically motor generating unit. H is for heating, and K is for kinetic. Heating is for the combustion, kinetic is for the electric. And so all this while we were having more of the MGUH than the MGUK. It was an 80-20 split. Now we are having a 50-50 split between both. So that means more electrical power. And that also brings us to some of those new terminologies, which is DRS. We know DRS is going away, so it's going to be replaced by overtake mode. Basically, it's extra electrical power drivers can deploy when they are close enough to make a move, just like the DRS flap. Then you'll also be hearing the boost button, which again, I actually heard this in Formula E, but then for the first time it's coming in Formula 1, which puts more control in the driver's hands over when that power will be used, as in more power can be deployed. And there's also the active aero, which we know because we are no more doing ground effects, where the cars can be switching between low drag on straights and more downforce in corners to help the racing flow gets better. And finally, we have a recharge button, which is something just about storing energy during the lap so it can be used when it matters the most. The big idea over here, which Formula One did this time, thanks to whoever managed to just get these simplified, is just to make it simple language for the fans, more driver control, and hopefully a closer racing season. Like, yeah, got some idea there, right?
Absolutely. And it makes sense, to give kind of more of that power to the drivers. So they're not so reliant on what's happening on the pit wall. And, with the same with DRS, obviously that made it quite exciting. So the fact they have the option to boost or save energy as they're going around the track.
Yeah, like, because I know I've been also watching Formula E, and I see this in Formula E where you've got like the attack mode, and then you just kind of when you're in that attack mode zone, get through, and then you just press that button and it gives you like a bit more power. And my only hope is that Formula One doesn't go as to being like Formula E with like 100% electrified, and I really hope it doesn't. Even though there are talks that sometimes that older engines can come back once sustainable fuels are found specific to Formula One cars. But definitely, I would love to be part, like, witness that sort of loud roaring engines, because it's a different feeling.
Yeah, and then that's what makes it distinctive. Like, you can't replace one for the other, and if it becomes similar to Formula E, then it's different.
Yeah, I think on that part, it's different teams, different manufacturers, everything is a lot different. But like, yeah, to wrap this all up, that was a bombshell, and this is the end of this season of Formula Pod. We've talked races, we've talked rivalries, off-track nonsense, and today we somehow reviewed an entire year of Formula One without shouting too much. The V6 Turbo Hybrid era gave us dominance, disruption, and some genuinely unforgettable moments, and it felt right to take that right step and reflect on it before the sport turns a page. Thank you to everyone who listened, who argued with us in their cars, and confidently told us that we were wrong. You know who you are. We are stepping away briefly, but fear not. January brings new car launches, new liveries, and absolutely wild predictions based on nothing at all. So until then, enjoy the off-season, overanalyze every spy shot, and remember, every new car is fast until it isn't. See you next season, and thank you so much for tuning on to another episode of Formula Pod. Hoping to see you in January.